Up series. We're going to continue, I hope, challenging you with profound truths, many of them recent scientific and historical findings that may affect the course of your life.
You know, as Hannah just shared, I really wanted this short documentary series to be a challenge somehow. But you know what, also with a very positive, hopeful outcome, I hope. And you know, at the opening here of video 2, you watched a brief slide run taking you from space to Earth. And in video 1, you started with some glimpses of our incredible, awesome universe. I can't think of a better word than awesome. It's overused, I know, but that's what the universe really is, particularly with all the new telescopes, the Hubble, and now the Webb. Amazing scenes that we're seeing in deep space. So here we're going to be focused in this video though on the miracle of life on this amazing planet in a big galaxy that's really tiny compared to all of the other galaxies in the universe. And so we're tucked away really in the corner of the vastness of this universe, and it's something just to stagger the mind. So we're thinking about these things. You know, when you just take the time to notice, many of you, I'm sure, are like me, you're overwhelmed by the grandeur and the beauty, some of which you're seeing behind me in these scenes, on this planet on which we live, and enveloped, of course, by the universe around us. So I'm glad you could join us here again for part 2 in the Wake Up series. But in case this is your initial introduction, I really, really want to encourage you to first pull up and watch video 1, Wake Up video 1, and really dive into it. Well, you know, we've all had experiences like standing on a mountaintop, admiring the view, the beauty around us, or being maybe amazed at a spectacular sunset. Saw one just the other day out here. Maybe sitting quietly on the beach and just looking and drinking in the beauty of the sights and sounds and the smells of the restless ocean in front of us. Don't you just think that these types of profound experiences should really draw us closer to a reflection, maybe drilling down more deeply as we think through these things, just what lies behind the beauty of this world that we see. Well, we're going to want to explore and challenge a little bit your thinking. As we explore these things, we're going to kind of go past the surface kind of day-to-day existence that we all get swept up in. It's normal. We all do. Got to do it. It's the world in which we live, and particularly this mad-paced culture that we live in. But you know, we need to go beyond what we can experience with just our 5 senses alone, I think. But there's a cautionary note here too. I would also want to warn you. You know, for example, in our first series video, we alluded to having skepticism. And there can be a really healthy skepticism about some of the things that we see and we think and that we're exposed to. Claims made by scientists even, you know, with professional sounding titles, scholars, and yeah, maybe even theologians, sure. But we're going to be addressing some aspect of skepticism up ahead, so healthy and otherwise. So as we proceed, we'll assume that you may have at some point in your life just maybe asked yourself some version of 3 profoundly important questions. See if you don't agree with me that they're important. Number 1, how did I get here? And then, why am I here? And lastly, of course, and probably the most profound and the most vital, where am I going? Well, we're going to be addressing aspects of these crucial life issues. But first, we need to consider the topic of atheism, or maybe deep agnosticism, if you will. But you know, that kind of mode of belief, that worldview that just kind of bluntly proclaims there is no God. Well, the person making that bold claim, audacious claim really, right, would certainly have to be called an atheist. But we got to ask, though, is it reasonable or logical even to deny the existence of an eternal deity, a being who may possibly exist just outside your own personal realm of experience or perception? Well, certainly Mr. Spock would have found the atheist's position most illogical, especially in the face of scientific discoveries over recent years. Yeah, you know, many otherwise intelligent people, maybe you're one of them, persist in calling themselves atheists. Well, Dr. John Lennox, an Oxford professor, has made a rather curt four-word statement in one of his books, citing the many recent astounding scientific breakthroughs. And he says simply this: science has buried atheism. Now that's a pretty strong statement too, but he defends that with the evidence provided by science, modern science, that you're probably not seeing in your textbooks because it's over the last 10 years or so. Textbooks haven't caught up, takes them a while. But you know, Lennox also has bluntly written this, quote, "Atheism is a delusion, since it is the persistent belief in the face of strong contrary evidence," unquote. So, maybe it's proper that we should be cautious, maybe even doubtful of any rigid claims made about origins in particular, I'm talking now, made by the skeptic/atheist. You think so? Well, now consider this. There's a staggering amount of pre-programmed complexity of even the simplest DNA, little microbes, the tiniest forms of life there are. And yet, your and my DNA, science tells us, could literally stretch from here to the sun, 90 million miles, I think, and back 600 times? Unimaginable. That's how complex the pre-programmed information is in that DNA. Well, man, that's really unimaginable, isn't it? Or, as the penny thinker muses, quote, "Intelligent design logically points to an intelligent designer," unquote. Fairly logical. But this all hits us on a very personal level. And we're going to be revealing that up ahead, so stay with us.
It may well be that some of you watching do feel comfortable wearing the mantle of agnosticism instead. But this needs a bit of clarification, we think, since that description may trigger different meanings, not to mention emotions, in different people. So, in order to move forward, maybe we can accept the definition of agnostic as it has most widely come to be understood. Okay, so we'll then describe an agnostic as a person who concedes the possibility that there exists one eternal, all-powerful being, but who also claims that no one can know with any real certainty that any such being actually exists. Would you currently claim the agnostic label for yourself? If so, what if mounting scientific evidence ends up soon destroying the idea that a mindless concept like chance, elevated to near godlike power, could ever somehow create everything from absolutely nothing? Think now. That's in effect what your evolutionary teachers actually teach. Well, maybe we should first determine how you might refine that agnostic or skeptic label a bit for yourself. You could, for example, be placing yourself either in the camp of an open or maybe just closed agnostic. How about this for a statement we might expect from each type? The closed agnostic might assert,
I don't know if there's a God or not. I'm not sure anyone can know that for sure. But anyway, I don't much care either way. I don't let that issue affect the way I live my life one way or the other.
The open agnostic, on the other hand, might say,
I don't know whether or not one all-powerful supreme being, or God, exists. However, if you have the evidence to show me, I'd say that I'm willing to review and consider it.
well, if you define yourself either as a closed agnostic or an atheist, and have made a permanent commitment to a hardened humanistic philosophy of life, you should probably save yourself some time and simply click off here. But for those of you who remain with us and are still open, you might have to wrestle a bit with some of what you're about to watch. But keep an open mind and perhaps even challenge any preconceptions that might steer your life currently. You never know. There just might be something new to discover that would truly make this time well spent for the honest seeker of truth. You know, there's a very thought-provoking statement made by astrophysicist Dr. Robert Jastrow in his book God and the Astronomers. Dr. Jastrow summed up some of his key data and interpretations by having a bit of fun at his skeptic colleagues' expense. He said this: "For the scientist who has lived by his faith in the power of reason, the story ends like a bad dream. He has scaled the mountains of ignorance. He is about to conquer the highest peak. As he pulls himself over the final rock, he is greeted by a band of theologians who have been sitting there for centuries."
For our purposes here, we're just exploring a small sampling of the numerous proofs to be found online and in a variety of published volumes on the intelligent design side of the current scientific debate over origins. So let's look now at a powerful argument concerning the absolutely staggering amount of pre-programmed information contained within even the simplest microscopic strand of living DNA. Complex, intelligent information does not just randomly evolve or simply assemble itself into mindless organic molecules. No, complex, programmed information requires a programmer. Only makes sense, doesn't it? Well, of course it does. Complex, pre-programmed information requires a programmer. Only makes common sense, right? In fact, to believe an enormous database of coded information in DNA came about randomly and mindlessly would be the equivalent, as one ID scientist has said of believing that, quote, given a long enough time span, that enough tornadoes spinning through enough vast electronic junkyards would inevitably and mindlessly form, program, and then launch an enormously complex machine like the space shuttle. Well, that's simply absurd. Of course, discoveries about much of the makeup of all DNA has staggered scientists in the field of microbiology in recent years. In a current article posted on discovery.org by Stephen C. Meyer in the topic of genetic design, he noted that DNA has a remarkably similar structure to that found in the codes, alphabets, and languages. But as mind-boggling as DNA complexity is for the traditional evolutionary biologist, it's much worse for the hard-boiled scientist at the cellular level. Even for the most primitive, tiny amoeba is now understood to be a living machine composed of precisely designed permeable and semi-permeable membranes, structures that take in nutrients, metabolize them, and then expel waste. There are also very complex systems of circulation and respiration, reproduction, etc., etc. All these precisely designed and efficiently intermeshing structures and systems are built by DNA coded with more information contained in them than a vast library of books. Wow. Well, we're going to be closing out the second video of our Wake Up series in a moment, and we urge you to stay with us and to keep thinking deep.
You know, life is an adventure, and living it is exhilarating. But some of you maybe need to start living with a changed mind. So maybe start by considering this: the awesome beauty and the design of the universe and of all life on this incredible, amazing planet. We're seeing some of these scenes right now in this video. Earth is really staggering. I really hope for some of you it might just be life-changing.
In video 3 coming up, we'll first address the second proof that intelligent design proponents put forward to support their theories. We'll hope this leads you possibly to ask yourself a what-if question. That would be, what if the newest scientific data really does suggest strongly that an intelligence far beyond that all of mortal man, and very likely eternal, might just lie at the heart of the universe's existence? What might the implications of this be for my life and the choices I make while I'm here on this planet? We'll then be transitioning into a discussion of which worldview and what is faith after all. We'll also be taking some riveting looks at the final recorded statements of a few people who were facing their last moments of life. Hope you join us back soon for a very compelling, deeper look into origins, finding meaning in living, and in discovering the likelihood of life beyond the grave. For a moment, though, take a look at a few points which will appear on your screen. These could be areas that will cause you to stop and think, and maybe end up even jarring you a bit into the comfort zone you may now be resting in as we explore this and more in upcoming videos in this Wake Up series. Think about these. Faith isn't always a large leap. It's sometimes only a relatively small hop. A 50-50 chance never represents favorable odds. Where will I be in 100 years from now? Or will I be at all? What if my worldview crumbles or is damaged by new evidence? Do I at all change my worldview? As we close, experience exhilaration as you watch this captivating three-dimensional trip through the universe courtesy of the Hubble Space Telescope and the creative people at space.com. And thanks for staying with us on this continuing journey.